Do you know the 7 key triggers that actually break down a narcissist and shatter the narcissist delusion? More importantly, do you know how it can help you take back control in your life again? In this video, we're going to uncover these triggers and we're going to end with some proven strategies to help you break free from that toxic relationship cycle of the narcissistic abuse, even if you're out of the relationship. If healing and reclaiming your power sounds like the next right step for you, well, you're in the right place. My name's Dr. Kaur, and I specialize and understand toxic relationships and help people release themselves from that trauma so they can reconnect with themselves and rebuild their life. Today, we're going to be diving deep into understanding how narcissistic mortification works, not just to understand them better, because I know everything's about them, but to reclaim your power, your mind, and your peace, and let go of that hold that they've had on us. So let's dive in. Before we really look at each of the triggers, we need to look at the overall and understand the core essence of narcissism. The best place to go back to is Narcissist and how he fell in love with his own reflection in the water. That basically tells us everything. It's like the hidden meaning and understanding everything there is to understand about narcissism. He fell in love with his reflection. A reflection isn't a real person, it's an illusion, it's an image. And he fell in love with that image. Anyone that relates to him had to love that image too. It's all about the image. Nothing to do with the person. So when we're in a relationship with a toxic person or a narcissist, they want you to be in a relationship with that reflection and not with the real person. So now let's look at the triggers. One major trigger is challenging their perceived superiority. How this can look in everyday life is that you just didn't pick up the phone call when they first called you, and they might call you again and again and again. They expect you to have a bat phone like Batman. To them, they're like so important that they have a superiority. Their image is about they are better than everybody else. When they see you, they see someone that should be worshipping that image that they've created. So I hope this helps you understand how when they react, accusing you of having affairs because you were in a meeting with your client or something like that, something normal, like you might be shopping in a supermarket or you were in the toilet. But to them, it's a monumental blow to their carefully crafted image of importance. So I hope this really helps you understand how their behavior is rooted in deep insecurities. They don't want to see the truth of who they are. And that can free you from unnecessary guilt around you didn't pick the phone up, them raging at you because you were busy. It's not necessary. You don't need to feel guilty. You don't need to be there. Someone is wanting you to live in a fantasy world, in the fantasy they've created. That brings us on to the second. As human beings, we want to grow and evolve. It's nature's way. If you look at life itself and you have life within you, you want to grow and evolve and go towards things that bring you joy, the light. Growth is so important. It's innate. But with a narcissist, a trigger is where you're acting outside of their fixed view of you. Well, you can't stay the same for anyone or anything. There's no such thing in nature. You either grow or you deteriorate. There's nothing, you don't see anything in life where something just stays the same. It's impossible. It either grows or it deteriorates. If you deviate from their own narrative of who you are, it's actually a trigger because it makes them realize that they aren't living in this fantasy world that they've created where they are the prince and you are Cinderella, or vice versa. If you assert your independence, your need for growth, maybe you want to go dancing or you wanted to go for a walk, that need isn't anything to do with you being bad or you should feel guilty. It's actually a reflection on their need to control the narrative so that everybody just focuses on the image and not the person themselves. If you're not playing Cinderella, for instance, that means that they're not the prince. or vice versa. So that destroys their whole narrative, their whole story in their head. If you go outside of that, then there's a problem. Now, it helps us move on to point number 3. Turning the tables can actually cause narcissistic mortification. If you leave them and discard them before they discard or leave you, then that will cause a lot of issues for them because you're destroying that illusion. Now, the thing here is, because you are the way nature is and the way life is, it's inevitable that they will devalue you and discard you. It's part of the cycle because you can't stand still. You can't be this image. You don't even know what image they've created of you and what the fantasy is. You don't know the whole truth of what's going on in their head. You're only seeing the image that they're trying to portray. And that's why the love bombing phase is so incredible, because it's just an image. It's a fantasy. It's an illusion. Hence why it seems so perfect. But you can't maintain that because it's not real. None of it's real. So it's inevitable that they are going to have to devalue you and discard you because they can never have you see them. If they can devalue you every time you look towards them and not the reflection, then there's more of a chance that you're controlled to keep looking at the illusion. And that's why devaluation and discard is inevitable in any narcissistic relationship. They set that up for that to happen so that they can keep you under their control. But if you turn the table and you actually leave them or devalue them and say, hey, this is really weird. You're not stable. You're dysregulated, and every little thing you seem to go over the top about this. That will cause narcissism mortification, because then they have to face the fact that they aren't as perfect as they made out to be. Number 4, this is really important to understand. If you expose their mistakes, highlight any tiny little flaw or any error in their actions at all, as well as the big things that they do, even if you're pointing it out in a calm, consistent way, it's reasonable. The impact on them is they will literally deny, attack, and reverse the victim. And so it's called DAVO: deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. The reason why they do that is because they feel attacked, because you are making them see themselves. I know this sounds crazy, but it's true. They feel attacked because they're looking at the illusion. They would just want you to keep looking at that. How dare you look at the real person? It's like that. Their need for this perfection is a defense mechanism. And it's not reality, it's not real, and it's nothing to do with you. And you don't deserve to be treated in that way. You live in reality. It's inevitable that you're going to point things out. Number 5, what causes narcissistic mortification? I love this one because you disengage emotionally, because they have a lot of emotional control where you have to numb, you have to suppress, you have to be strong and not feel, and you have to see feelings as weakness, and you have to have a positive mindset. But when you start to disengage from supplying to them and you start feeling happy, feeling joy, releasing your emotions, ignoring their nonsense and not getting triggered by it, releasing the anxiety, releasing the depression, you can look at what they're doing, and what used to trigger you, you'll laugh at. It won't provoke a reaction where you feel you need to react to them. Emotional detachment is such a powerful tool to reclaim your energy, to reclaim your worth, to reclaim your power, where you can go through life confident. And it's so important not to react to them. Grey rocking, it's not just about not reacting to them, but really, truly from within not reacting, in terms of not feeling anxious, not getting annoyed, and just letting it all go so you can move on with your life. Okay, that really, really causes a huge, it's the best revenge there is. Point number 6, anything that you do which fails to reflect their full self If you're not validating their image or their facade, if you're not, they're coming up with a story, they've had an argument with their sister or something, and you're not agreeing with them, they will turn around and blame you for not being there for them or making them feel bad. If you treat them like a normal human being, rather than this grand image, the persona that they've projected, any little thing that does that will actually cause them to break down, and they become hugely fragile, hugely vulnerable, because everything relies on external validation for them. They need other people to see the reflection so that they can keep that persona going. They don't want anyone to see the real them. Lastly, and this is really important, any type of firm boundaries, anywhere you're saying, no, I don't want to go there, or I don't really want to do that, you're not doing what they want you to do in their illusion, in their role, in their story, refusing to engage in unhealthy patterns, prioritizing your basic needs will impact them. But that's the beauty. You actually healing, you becoming a better version of yourself is going to impact them. That is going to impact them. Now that we understand the triggers, let's focus on the most important person, you. The truth is, the more energy we focus on the narcissist, the longer we stay trapped in that cycle. There's a reason for that. It's because every single time we think of something that is negative, that has caused trauma in our past, it actually creates those chemicals in our body, so we stay trapped in that cycle even when we're thinking about it long after it's finished. The only way to shift out of something like this into joy is to actually rewire and help your brain reset, if you like, into a space of safety and resilience. Because what's happened in the brain is, imagine every single time there's any emotional wound where you aren't allowed to feel, you're not allowed to be. What happens in the brain is it sets off this alarm and says, okay, I can't deal with this emotion right now. I haven't got time. I haven't got space. I'm not safe enough to do that. I'm going to have to store it. And where you store it is in a part of the brain called the amygdala. It's the emotions, it's also the fear and the anxiety that gets stored there. Now, normally, when we're living life and we're not dealing with so much trauma, what happens is the way we experience life is things go into the amygdala and we process those things. It gets passed over to the hippocampus. We learn from it, and that gets integrated in the rest of the brain, so we feel like completed. Unfortunately, when we're storing stuff away in the amygdala needs more space. If you see it as like we're storing stuff in there, it gets bigger and bigger, and we're not passing that much back over to the hippocampus. So it starts to shrink. So we're not learning as much from anything because we're not processing it. So our ability to move forward and learn from these experiences hindered. That means that we are so heavily into analyzing and thinking and questioning. And in our head, it actually creates a different cycle and a different part of the brain where we go round and round in circles. We think about it, and it's quite addictive. We're always thinking about them, trying to learn about them, focusing on them. So what we want to do to actually really, truly move on, so you can learn from the experience and let it go and complete it, so you can focus on more positive experiences in 2025. And by doing that, over time, the brain starts to take back its normal shape. The amygdala starts to shrink and the hippocampus starts to grow. Look, if this sounds of interest to you and you're ready to take the next step, you might want to join my monthly healing membership. This month, we start with a live Zoom meeting where you can ask me anything. Each week, you get a prompt. How do we create boundaries during the holiday season? What do we want to do in 2025 to be able to move forward? Plus, there's a 30-day free trial, so there's no reason to wait. Sign up today and start your transformational journey. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, healing is possible and everything is waiting for you. Your newer version of yourself is waiting. If you found this video useful, share it with anyone that needs it. And also subscribe for more strategies to reclaim your life. Sending you so much love. Remember, this journey deserves so much love, compassion, and understanding. Sending you love. Till next time.